Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم اللهم اجعل ليلة قدرنا في هذا رمضان خيرا من ألف شهر لنا آمين آمين. So inshallah today we will continue from where we left last week. Last week we have been discussing the verses from Surah Al-Baqarah about month of Ramadan, and it came to the point that Qur'an was being mentioned, specifically mentioned when Ramadan was mentioned. So today we will continue from this. So who gets guidance from Qur'an? What is Qur'an? Since Ramadan is the month of Qur'an, as famously being known among the Muslims. So what is Qur'an and who is getting guidance from Qur'an? And for that, we will be going through the very initial verses of the second chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah of Qur'an. So inshallah, I'll be looking forward to your inputs during the discussion. So this was the verse that we studied last week. And since I see Abdurrahman there, if he can help with the verse, and maybe Aishanur can help with the English translation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان.
It was the month of Ramadan in which the Qur'an was bestowed from on high as a guidance unto man, and a self-evident proof of that guidance, and as the standard by which to discern the true from the false.
So while studying this verse last week, so the things very briefly that I remember we mentioned was before this verse also, fasting was being mentioned and saying that fasting is ordained to you as it was ordained to previous people. And then after two verses talking about fasting, in this third verse, it was saying that the month of Ramadan is the month in which Quran is revealed, then gives us a description of Quran, and then says, if any one of you reaches this month, should do fasting. So there was a direct relationship between month of Ramadan and Quran, as if this month is specifically designated by my Creator to focus on understanding Quran, and fasting is a means of preparing myself to focus better on understanding Quran. So in this regard, then what is Quran? How does Quran describe itself? So in this verse, it was being described as a guidance unto humanity, linnas. So this description of guidance to man is a general, wide description. And this is what we are trying to understand today. Who gets guidance from Quran? According to this verse, it's a guidance for humanity. But we also know that not everybody receives guidance from Quran. So who is this human or man that Quran is considering as man, actually, as human? Because it looks like someone who is not receiving guidance or closing their doors to receive guidance from Quran seems to be out of the description of human from the point of view of Quran. So we will try to understand that who receives guidance from Quran. And why am I interested in this? Because I want to receive guidance from Quran. So it's going to be a description of how shall I become, so much so that I'm going to receive guidance from the Quran. And the second and the third description of Quran in this verse was, it's a self-evident proof of that guidance. So it's self-evident, and for that we were, as far as I remember from last week, we said that it is, the message in there is understandable, verifiable, but for me. So just to give an example, if it was giving me historical evidence of what has happened, or historical account of, because evidence, historical evidence is something else, but if it was simply giving me historical account of what has happened in the past, so it wouldn't be self-evident for me. How would I know if such a thing happened or didn't happen? So when Quran says it is clear, self-evident proof of that guidance, and that means I should be taking it as something that is understandable, verifiable by me easily. And then the third one was وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. So it is a standard by which to discern the true from the false. And definitely this is something, as we have been talking last week, that I'm looking for. And actually this is the reason that I am becoming part of different circles, groups. So for instance, I am getting into academia because I am thinking that, okay, these guys are figuring out how to make sense of this universe in a systematic way. So maybe I should follow them to understand what's going on around me. So I just adopt the truth system of this group and go with it. But there are other alternatives out there. To the extent that I am being dissatisfied by whatever criterion that I found inherited either from my parents or that I adopt going to school, whatever, to the extent that I get dissatisfied, I look for the criterion. My maker, my creator should tell me how to distinguish right from wrong. So speech of God is such a thing. So now today's discussion, coming to today's verses. So these are the first, second, and third verses from Surah Al-Baqarah. So Abdurrahman, since Birkan disappeared, I guess, again, I'll ask to you.
ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون.
So Aishanur, is Aishanur reading the translation?
This is the book on which there is no doubt, which is a guidance for all the God conscious. Those who believe in the existence of that which is beyond the reach of human perception and are constant in prayer and spend on others out of what we provide for them as sustenance.
Jazakallah khair. So mainly I'm going to discuss about the first verse, like the second verse, not the Alif Lam Mim part of it. But for the third verse, I will partially discuss about it and leave the rest of it to next week, inshallah. So let's talk about the verse. Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So just in case anybody is interested in this Alif Lam Mim part of it, since it is a interesting part to discuss anyways, and very cryptic, just letters, there is a very nice contrast just within this verse. So it starts with 3 letters and then says, this is the book, which is an interesting thing. So I'll briefly talk about this, but before that, let me highlight 4 terms in this verse that I see, which I guess we need to clarify. So ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, this is the book. So what does it mean that speech of God is being described as a book? What is the significance of a book? This is the first thing that I think we should discuss. Then this is a book, this is the book on which there is no doubt. So la rayba fih. So what does it mean that this book having no doubt? Does it mean that I shouldn't have any questions at all, or just if any question comes to my mind, I should just sweep them away somehow. Practically, what does it mean?
I think it means like no doubt that it came from Allah, and that it's the like final book and it's all true and stuff. So that I think that's what I mean. But you can ask questions. Like obviously people don't understand certain verses, and the Sahaba were very open to asking the Prophet questions.
Okay, so what you mean is it is certain that this is speech of God. Undoubtedly, it is speech of God.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a possible understanding. So let's also keep that in mind, and we are going to talk about this. Then, hudan lil muttaqin. So it is a guidance. So what does it mean that it's a guidance? What else could it have been, for example? Could it have been a storybook? Could it have been a, I don't know, fortune telling book, telling me about how to make money or how to be more successful in my life, in business, in family life, whatever. So what do I expect from that book? Quran describes it as a book of guidance. And then, hudan lil muttaqin. It says it's a guidance for the God conscious. It's not guidance for some certain people then, because the previous verse that I just showed before this one was saying that huda linnas, it is guidance for the man or mankind. But now in this verse, as if we are going a bit specific, saying that it's a guidance for God conscious. What does God conscious mean in here? This is going to be the fourth point that I would like to discuss with you from this verse. And just to give some hint, the following verse is going to start describing what muttaqin means. And after this slide, I'm going to jump a few verses, and then we will start talking about the unbeliever. Because at the introduction of Surah Al-Baqarah, very interestingly, first talks about muttaqin, the God conscious, then talks about unbeliever, alladhina kafaru, so the ones that cover up. And then it also talks about a third group, which is who are saying that they believe, as Quran describes, but actually they don't. So these are the three groups, as if now Quran is expanding what I might be considering as man, as nas, going with the previous verse, hudan linnas, but then as if says that muttaqin is what I meant by nas. For those, I mean, potentially, yes, every human can receive guidance from Quran as long as you're a human, as long as you are given this capacity of being a human. But if you killed some aspects of your humanity, and then you might be limiting your access of guidance through Quran. So this would be the main gist of our discussion today, inshallah. So now let me hear, what do you think that, what does Quran mean when it refers to itself as a book? What comes to your mind? Any ideas? So, okay, until you guys warm up. Okay, Atik, please go ahead.
If I think of a book, I'd probably think of like a guidebook, a step-by-step process. You know, you have like, if you want to get better at something, you'll read a book for dummies, you know, the introduction and then some clear examples and stuff like that. Something that's clear and progressive, like there's a beginning point and then by the end you can say, oh, I mastered this subject or whatever.
Okay, good. So in a book, let's say, as you were also thinking about, let's say you are trying to figure out something and you are in need of this step-by-step instruction. So if it is a book, just the very basics, the description of book, what does it require? And how would it differ from, I don't know, since it's starting from 3 letters, alif, lam, mim. So would you call a bunch of like something like this, something of this thickness, but you know that it is consisting of random letters actually. Just as the famous example goes, somebody put a monkey in front of the keyboard and the monkey kept pressing the keys, and after sufficient amount of time you ended up getting this 1000 pages of thickness of, I don't know, pile of paper. Would you call it a book? Why not? Yes, anybody? Is there anyone who has doubts about the legitimacy of the book that my monkey has written? Yes, Abdurrahman, please go ahead.
I would say no, I would not consider that a book. I would consider it a waste of paper. A book, for something to be a book, I would require it to, you know, somewhat along the lines of what Atik said, you know, it must have something in it that I can benefit from. It must have some wisdom in it. It must have an author. It must have meaning. The words should come together in meaningful ways. You know, a book can't just be a mix of characters.
Intention.
It must have intention.
Good. So you said first it must have an author, right? So, and this author in my case was a monkey, but you didn't accept it as a author. I guess by author you mean a conscious being, because the book is going to be the medium of transferring some sort of a meaning to me from a conscious author. So as long as I'm a conscious reader, I expect, or I would simply call a pile of paper as a book if there is a conscious author who is trying to communicate some meaning with me, and the book is the medium for that. And how do I know that? I am the recipient endpoint, so I am one point of this relationship, but there has to be an author. So now the Quran is describing itself as a book. So it's saying that remember there must be an author of this book. Who is the author of this book? So the author of this book is not a man called Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, but he is the book of your creator, the speech of your creator. So this is important to locate what I deliberately need to locate the Quran into its proper place in order to be able to start benefiting from it. So in this regards, when we say that it's a book, 4 things enter into the picture. Who is speaking? So the speaker, to whom is being spoken? So the addressee. And what is the purpose of this conversation? And what is the context of this conversation? How does this conversation take place? So once depending on my answers to those questions, then I will be able to figure out the proper meaning of this book. Speaker, recipient, purpose, and the context. So this is why I guess when the creator says this is the book, all these come into the picture. And without evaluating these, if I start to go and understand Quran, most likely I will carry over some description, maybe not as explicit, but for instance, I might be taking that, okay, the speaker is God here. But what is my understanding of God? Is my understanding of God is the one who takes care of me right now, my breathing, who knows what I was 10 days ago, 5 minutes ago, who is aware what I'm going to be 10 minutes later, 10 years later, and that accordingly speaks to me. And you can compare it with a wise man, for instance, a wise man gives you some suggestion. I mean, I don't know if you would consider me as a wise man, but if you come to me and ask me for some suggestion about your future life plan, how would it look like? So I don't know very well, first of all, about your past. Maybe I'm knowing you for 1-2 years. I don't know what's going to come about you within 2-3 years. Let's say if it was, oh, shall I marry with this person or not? Ooh, so what shall I say really? Because I don't know you that much. I don't know the person that you're trying to get married maybe at all. And then I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, because the relationship is like very fragile thing. So how each other going to treat, I don't know really. So what sort of a wisdom can I really give in this case? And this is very much because of my limitation as a human. So when you are listening to my wisdom or my suggestion, you should take this into account. This person is speaking with his limited knowledge about me, and him himself having a limited wisdom also. He is giving this suggestion to that extent. So I will take it with a pound of salt, not just a grain of salt, but a pound of salt. So, but when the creator is speaking, who is the creator? Creator is the one who is all wise, all knowledgeable, beyond space and time. Then when I listen to a suggestion or a command from the creator, I will listen to it accordingly. This is why it is very much important who the creator is. So on and so forth, like defining myself, who am I? Am I a strong person that can stand on his own legs with his own power? Or am I a needy person and I am in need of being sustained 24/7? Plus, what is my purpose? Why am I on this earth? So to the extent that I answer those questions properly, then the book will become a proper book, proper guidance for me. Otherwise, I can take it as either a history book or just a repetition of previous mythologies, or I can take it as, well, Quran is a book to talk about futuristic predictions. So let's go and look for what will happen tomorrow, so on and so forth. So that is that much. And just to briefly highlight again, Alif Lam Mim in here, letters. Yes, this book is made up of letters, but they are not just a mumbo jumbo of letters. It is a book. It is written or spoken by a conscious being, but this conscious being is all knowledgeable. And La Rayba Fih part, no doubt. This is the book on which there is no doubt. So Ammar said that this means there is no doubt that this is speech of God. So what else? Do we have any other comments? What does it mean that this is a speech on which there is no doubt about? Do we agree with Ammar? Yes, Atik, please go ahead.
It seems you could also read it as there is no doubt or imperfections in the book itself. So everything that it tells you is true.
Yes. So can we say it as there is nothing in here that is shady? Like there's nothing that you cannot verify in this book, because it is a guidance. What do we mean by guidance? And again, in the next verse, the guidance is going to come with a guidance, Hudan. So let's combine the two now. So a guidance, when a guidance is meant, what comes to your mind? Let's talk about doubt along with guidance then. What would you consider as a guidance? Or let me give you a bit more of a clue. Would you consider a map as a guidance? If you do, what would you consider as doubtful on a map? And what would you consider as a map that is undoubtful? Yes. Anyone? Anyone? Yes, Atik, please go ahead.
Birkan can go.
Birkan says no. So Atik, I guess you need to talk, sorry.
Sure. Well, if we are using a map analogy, I'd say guidance would look like a clear map that has very defined features. You know, I can look around and I can say, okay, this is that, and this points to that, and I can easily tell where I am and what I'm looking for, wherever that is and how to get there. But a doubtful map would be if there was a third grader that had to draw me a map. And so in that case, there'd be very rough edges, not clearly defined signs and objects of interest. So you wouldn't really be able to, you know, gauge where you are, where you're headed, and how far, how big that distance, you know, the scale is.
Good, very good. Jazakallah khair. So the descriptions needs to be very clear for it to be undoubtful. Brother Birkan, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I usually take such phrases or verses as an invitation. Invitation to check this book against your doubts or vice versa. So what I mean is the verse is talking about doubts out of sudden. Instead of just saying this is a book for guidance for you, it says this is a book in which there is no doubt. I think it's talking about these doubts because as a human being, I have many doubts. And when I start going to receive guidance, even if I open the book as a means of guidance, I will have a lot of doubts about this guidance, a lot of doubts about the scripture that I'm reading. And this is what I should have as a human. So I guess the scripture here is inviting me to have doubts, to have, to be honest about, you know, having doubts. And saying that you have many doubts, and this book, as a means of guidance, is here to clear your doubts, to soothe your doubts, to clarify your doubts. So that's the reason you open this book and start reading. Otherwise, this is not a book to give you some extra information that you didn't know, you didn't need. So you could live without knowing what happened to Moses in his, you know, second episode of adventures. But as a good source of storytelling, I'm telling you this story. This is not Quran. Quran says you are sitting in front of this book and you need to learn about what happened to Moses because it will clarify some doubts in your life.
Jazakallah khair. So then combining what you said and Atik said, and if I do this with a map example that we started. So I have this treasure map. Let's make it more exciting. I have this treasure map. So for this map to be a guidance for me, but a guidance without any doubt, first of all, every detail in this map needs to be relevant to me, because if there are irrelevant extras, it's going to be a potential for misguiding me. Why is that here? I'm trying to make sense of this to find the treasure, and then some extra stuff is put in there to distract me or what? So everything in that map needs to be relevant to my purpose of finding the treasure. This is what Brother Birkan was saying. And as Atik was saying, it should have been very clear indications leading me to the answer, the guidance, or the treasure that I'm trying to find. And also what I'm understanding from here is I should be able to find the treasure at the end. So I need to be able to go to whatever is being marked over the map. I should go and see what is marked in the map and say that, yeah, this is correct. And then it says 10 steps to the right, you're going to find such a thing in there. I go 10 steps to the right and yeah, that's right. I also find this over here. If I was not able to, then I would say, well, wait a second, there's something wrong in here. It was telling me that you're supposed to find it in here, but it's not in here. So shall I trust this map about finding the treasure eventually? Because there is a mismatch about the reality that I'm experiencing and what this map is supposed to show me. So when the Creator says this is a guidance, a book, without any doubt, the way I understand it is take this as a guidance for your problems, for your troubles, and you will find that it is solving all of them. There is nothing shady, there is nothing mysterious that is going to be hidden from you, but it is going to solve all your problems. Along the lines of our the previous verse that we have been studying, it is verifiable. It is something that you can say that, okay, yes, I bear witness to this verse as well. I agree with this statement. It makes sense because this is what I am experiencing already. So like in a treasure map, walk 10 steps to the right. Yeah, I saw the tree over here. Yeah, it's already marked on the map and it's already in this real world as well. So yeah, this map is correct. So I can now continue my search. Likewise, anything in the Quran is as such. So I should be expecting such answers from Quran as it is claiming. Yes, Father Birkan, please go ahead.
So while you're thinking, an example occurred to me. So if I tell you, for instance, that here is a place, or this is a place where there is no pain of separation, what would you expect is that there's no separation there, right? And why I'm telling this to you, because I know that you have pain of separation in your life. So you're looking for somewhere in which there's no pain of separation. So otherwise, for instance, I wouldn't say such a thing to anyone who doesn't experience any pain of separation. So Quran is telling me that there's no doubt in this book because my Creator knows that I have doubts. I have many doubts in my life and I want to resolve them. And says, it is the place, it is your book where there's no doubt. So through this book, you will find your guidance, and through which all your doubts will be resolved. You will end up with a life without any doubt. Sorry, with no doubt. Anyway, so it is there because my Creator knows that I have many doubts. Again, like I have to be honest with myself that I have many doubts with my life, about my religion, about my Creator, about my whatever, myself. I have many doubts and I want them to be resolved. With such a mindset, Quran starts talking to me and says that, okay, I will give you guidance.
And also to give credit back to what Ammar very initially said, it also means that this indeed is a undoubtedly speech of God. So it must be also verifiable that I would say this, first of all, my Creator has to talk to me. Am I sure about that? Once I'm convinced that, yes, my Creator has to talk to me, because I am in need of guidance, and the one that takes care of my own existence right now with the breathing and the pumping of blood and everything must satisfy, and he is also satisfying, let's say, the need of my oxygen, need of my stomach. We are waiting for iftar time. So he is the one that is satisfying all of these. So how about my need for all those answers to those questions of mine? Where am I going to? Why is there death? Why is there separation? Such questions are there. And I am saying that the one that satisfies the need of my stomach must satisfy the need of my humanity which shows itself with those questions. So my creator must talk, must speak and provide me guidance. And when Quran comes and says that I am this guidance, then I will go and check. If you are speech of my creator, then you must be, there shouldn't be any contradiction in you within the text itself. There shouldn't be any contradiction. Plus, there shouldn't be any contradiction between the text and my needs, my life, the life that I see outside. So in this regards also, it is undoubtedly speech of God. And it's claiming that it is as such, then my expectation becomes, okay, then my creator walks his talk, if you like, the way that the English phrase goes. He speaks what he is doing. So there has to be a perfect match between what he speaks and how he creates. Okay, so that much about this. If you have any other comments, please raise your hands, or questions, comments. Then I continue with the last part of the verse, Hudan lil muttaqin. So Quran is a guidance for God conscious. There is going to be a description of God conscious in the following verses, 3, 4, 5. I will only briefly talk about the third verse. But before we start with that, anything you would like to say about God conscious? Why is Quran specifically saying that this will only become a guidance for those who are God conscious? What does this mean? You can go with I don't know if you would like to go with the parable of our treasure map or anything. When does something become a guidance for someone? And in this case, yeah, go ahead, please.
So it's when they're looking for the treasure, becomes a guidance. If they're not, then like they can read the Quran and come up with their own interpretations, or like Allah can actually misguide them through the Quran if their intentions are bad.
Yes, very beautiful. So if they are looking for treasure, then map is going to become a guidance for them. If not, map is just going to be just nice pictures of trees and whatnot. So then what does it mean that I'm trying to find guidance from Quran? So God conscious, the way I understand from Ammar's comment, if I am taking it as this is speech of my God who is going to answer my questions, then it becomes a guidance for me. So what I expect from Quran is going to, if you like, define what I'm going to get out of Quran. That means I need to locate myself properly to benefit properly from Quran. If I would like to get guidance from Quran, I need to change. I need to get into a certain mood, mindset, or attitude so that I will be ready to receive guidance from Quran. And the verse that we were studying last week was highlighting this part. Fasting, 2 verses that talks about fasting, Baqarah 182, 183, if I'm not wrong. And then in 184 was starting to talk about Quran, as if fasting is another thing which is going to give me the consciousness, the awareness, as we have been discussing last week, about who I am and who is my maker, my creator, what are my needs, and the one that satisfies my needs are, who is that one that satisfies my needs? So once I understand who I am, who he is, then Quran will start speaking to me. And this is why fasting is, if you like, to recondition myself or make alignments in myself so that during Ramadan, so that I will sit in front of the Quran during this month, along with other believers who are also entering into the same alignment. Pretty much like in a college, there is this curriculum, but whoever comes to the campus is expected to have the mindset of we are here to learn. We are not here to, I don't know, play computer games or do partying, whatever. But the purpose of this institution is to teach us. And we are in here to learn. So likewise, the month of Ramadan is, so the purpose of fasting is to realign me, make me question, am I really that strong guy? Or am I this needy person? Is the fruit sitting on top of my desk, is it really mine? Or it belongs to somebody else without whose purpose I cannot reach out to this fruit or even a glass of water and drink. So the fasting is making me realize who I am and who I am not. So in this regard, God consciousness is, I am now becoming aware of who I am and who my creator is. And to the extent that I'm aware of my need and the need for being guided, then I will start receiving this guidance. And I guess this is what the beginning part of verse 3 is saying. So muttaqeen, those God conscious, are those الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. They are those who believe in ghaib. And ghaib is being translated as either generally unseen, but what do we mean by unseen? Like, I don't see your souls either, which is beyond the reach of human perception. So when I look at the universe, I say that, yes, this is a beautiful hand, but I'm not the maker of this hand. So who is the maker of this hand? There must be a maker. Who is that maker? Is it my DNA? Is it, I don't know, the carrot that I ate yesterday, or the particles of my body? Who is the maker of this hand? Because these are the things that are within my perception. I perceive the particles, I perceive the carrot, or I see, I don't know, myself, or I sense it. But none of them are capable of making this hand, which is constantly being updated, like lively creature over here, which is very useful. So muttaqeen is those who are aware of such a thing. So they are aware of the speaker. For the rest of the verse, وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and are constant in prayer and spend on others out of what we provide for them as sustenance. So inshallah, next week's discussion is going to be about the latter part of this verse, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. So for now, I'm skipping this part of this verse. Inshallah, we will discuss this next week. We will listen to it from Brother Birkan, inshallah. So if you don't have, or do you have any comments so far? If you do, I would like to listen. Not, we can continue with the next verse. Okay. So now I'm jumping over 2 verses, 3 verses. And now we are, you turn 1 page in your Mus'haf. We are in the page 3 of Quran. Now this is the 6th verse of Surah Baqarah. Brother Abdurrahman.
إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم.
Indeed, as for those who are bent on denying the truth, it is all one to them whether thou warn them or do not warn them. They will not believe. God has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and over their eyes is a veil, and awesome suffering awaits them.
Jazakallah khair. So this is a very interesting verse. And it might have it also poses some sort of a challenge. How am I going to understand this verse? So first we talked about what Quran is, and then who benefits from Quran. God conscious can get guidance from Quran. But now in this verse, it is saying that as for those who are bent on denying the truth, so who keep denying the truth, even if you warn them or you don't warn them, they will not believe. Meaning that if you, no matter how eloquent you are by explaining Quran, or if you write Quran in golden letters, whatever, no matter how you warn them, they will not believe. And interestingly, in the next verse, saying that God has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and over their eyes is a veil, and awesome suffering awaits them. In the first glance, as if it looks like, well, it looks like God has sealed them. Isn't this like injustice? God, they cannot believe because God has sealed their hearts or their sight. So what's going on in here? What is the guidance in this verse for me? As Quran was the guidance beginning from the second verse that we studied today. So how is this verse a guidance for me? Any comments, please? Or questions? Yes, Abdurrahman.
Not well-formed thoughts. I'm just speaking, hopefully stalling. Well, the first thing that catches my attention on these verses is just as for those who are bent on denying the truth, it is the same thing whether you warn them or not, they will not believe. And then I was thinking previously we were talking about those that were God conscious, and the book was going to be guidance for the ones who are God conscious. So I'm thinking, it seems to be like two opposites here. On one hand, if you are God conscious, if you fit into this role of being God conscious, which let's say you have this concept of a book or you're seeking something, then this book will be guidance for you. And then on the other hand, we have, if you are one that is denying the truth, it doesn't matter whether you see this book or don't see it, you won't believe in it. Like it won't help you. Like there doesn't seem to be like a neutral point. Like for me, I would say, I'm probably not seeking guidance from the book too much. I'm just, and kind of, I would say I'm very passive in my just being. The Quran might be really nice, okay, but I don't see myself as on the opposite side of it. But it seems there's like a separation made here that you're either God conscious and you're seeking guidance from it, and it will be guidance for you, or you're just on the other side where you're maybe denying the truth, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you warn them or do not warn them; they will not believe. So there's like a separation made there. And the next verse, God has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and over their eyes is a veil, and awesome suffering awaits them. And this is just the description of, what I think. If we go by what what these verses are saying, you're either seeking guidance and you're being saved, or it's helping you, it's guiding you, or you're denying the truth and it's not helping you. And if you're not being helped, then that essentially means that, and if there's no passive state that you can just cruise, go on cruise control and somehow make it without going left or right, you need to pick a direction. And if you pick this direction of not seeking guidance, then you're going to end up where you suffer. You're going to suffer because apparently you're blocking your heart and your hearing, and you're not looking. When I read that God has sealed their hearts and hearing, and over their eyes is a veil, I read this as I have chosen this path, and then God creates it for me as such. I see that my heart and my hearing is sealed and my eyes are veiled, but this is because I've chosen a path of denying. Those are just my initial thoughts.
So let's talk about what does it mean to deny the truth first. Yes, Atik.
For me, I understand this as not an accidental, I'm not sure, if this is the right thing, and so let me just avoid it, but as, I know this is the truth, but for some reason, I'm going to deny it anyway. I'm going to reject it because I don't agree with it. And, you know, this and that. And then this is what causes God to seal their hearts and their hearings. Because if it wasn't through the person first knowing that this is the truth and denying it while knowing that, then it would be unfair for God to do what he's doing.
Good, Jazakallah khair. Very good point. Yet, HP, is that?
Assalamu alaikum. Not necessarily my point, and definitely not the only point that can be extracted from these verses. But as I was listening and as I was reading along with you guys, the idea of free will just really pops out for me in these verses. Like, man has his free will, and then there is God's will in a way. And of course, I think we should discuss what it means to deny the truth and the actual content of the stuff too. But I guess my immediate takeaway was about how whatever it is that I will, then the result of that is then created for me. So being in alignment between the two. But I mean, maybe perhaps this is not the main focus of the verse, but something that I was thinking about that attracted my attention here.
So yes, as far as I understand from what you said, so from this verse, because there was a noise when you were speaking, so I'm just recapping what you were saying. So this verse is highlighting my choice, the free will, and with my free will, what does it mean to deny the truth? So how am I making this choice practically? I guess this needs to be identified. That's what I understand from your speech. Okay, so I think was making the point of saying that I am intentionally denying something that I know of for whatever reason, and then as if I'm covering it up, I know what something is in there. Maybe I know exactly what it is, or I am suspecting what it is, but I don't want to get even close to it. So I cover it up and pretend as if it's not there. So a simple example that point somebody gave, which I liked, and it helped a lot in clarifying my understanding. So let's think about it, this pencil, and so this pencil is in my pocket. But let's say I don't know it's in my pocket. You come and ask me, do you have a pencil? And I say no. Would I be a denier of truth in this case? I don't know that the pencil is in there, so I'm not really lying. I'm not covering up something, some truth. To me, I really don't know that there is a pencil over there. Or maybe it might be a better example if it is money. Because somebody comes and asks you for money and you don't know if you have money or not. Let's say you forgot that your wallet is in your pocket. He comes and tells you you have change, you have cash. You say, well, I don't. Because you think that you really don't have money. So this is not going to be a lie or covering of truth. But it might be that you have money, but you don't want to give it to this person. The person comes and says that you have money and you say no. So now in this case, I am denying the truth. I am covering it up. So, and for me, in the second case, it wouldn't help, no matter how much you tell me that, no, there is wallet, just look into your pocket. I know that it is there, but I am intentionally denying it, no matter how, with whatever proofs you come to show me that my wallet is in my pocket, it wouldn't help, because my purpose is to say that it's not there. I don't want to admit that there is money in my pocket. But in the first case, if you come and tell me that, well, it looks like there's something in your pocket, please check it, then I say, oh yeah, the money is here, you're right. In the first case, it would make sense. In the second case, no matter how much you do, it's not going to help at all. So this is a descriptive verse saying, actually defining my situation. It is saying that if you choose to deny the truth, The truth being, I don't own myself. I'm not sustaining myself. I am being given life. I am being given health. I am being given strength, intellect, or speech, whatever. I am being given all of these. If I want to cover this up and say that, no, 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 I am a strong man that is standing on his own legs, his own power, his own intellect, there is no one ruling over me. If this is the worldview that I want to imagine, then all the evidences that shows otherwise, I would simply deny them. It's not going to help me. And this is as if this verse is saying that if you make this initial choice as such, no matter how much proofs come to you, no matter if Quran is being like the clearest evidence, proof, explanation, guidance is being put in front of you, it's not going to help because of this initial decision. And I guess in general, we can say that when I'm trying to understand this existence, if I make an initial assumption of this existence must be explainable within itself, meaning that since I am trying to understand who is the maker of this hand, if I start with an assumption saying that the maker of this hand has to be somewhere in here, it has to be either DNA, it has to be either particles or something. It cannot be anything other than this material existence. This is a choice that I deliberately make at the very beginning. If I commit to this decision, as we have been doing in our secular worldview, we are saying that I have to explain this, how this is being made within the material world itself. Then, no matter what sort of proofs you bring, I would say, well, I know it doesn't make sense that it happens by chance, but I don't have a better explanation. So I will go with the explanation of it happens by chance over billions of years. So my initial decision, if you like, locked me, chained me to accept such an explanation. This brings us to 7th verse. God has sealed their hearts, their hearing, and over their eyes is a veil. This is what is happening. Again, a description. It is saying that if you make this initial decision and act accordingly, you know what will happen. The clearest evidences are going to be in front of your eyes, and you will not be able to see them. And this is what is happening. You will not. The most meaningful things are going to happen right in front of your eyes. You're going to have a newborn child, which is like a miracle. And you will just say that, well, this is just nature. This is just accommodation. The baby is going to suck milk. This is going to be the first thing the baby will do. And you will say, oh, yeah, this is in the nature of the baby. Over centuries, natural selection, the ones that are able to suck survived, the rest died away. You wouldn't see any meaning in there. You will only say that these are the ones that are survived. So you will, the truth is going to be hidden from your eyes. How did this happen? Because of my initial decision of, I wanted to cover up truth, and I will keep covering up truth. And this is our experience. And Quran is very eloquently saying that actually this is, the Creator is punishing you for making you taste what your choices led you to. So as if like a paying back, saying that, okay, if you do like this, this is what I would do. And the Creator does this all the time. The Creator says, if you drink water, I'm going to quench your thirst. And in here he says, if you choose to deny the truth intentionally from the very beginning, I'm going to make you blind to truth. So any comments about this verse? I know a few of our participants have studied part of this verse in depth. If they would like to make any comment about this verse. Waiting for Brother Birkam, Abdurrahman, or Aishanur. Brother Birka, please go ahead.
So I will not, of course, share the parts that we studied because they are for our retreat, incoming retreat. So you should join us in Memorial Day retreat to hear about what Yusuf was referring, which is very exciting and interesting. But for now, the boring part. So it's interesting. It's especially the second verse, the seventh one. God has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and over their eyes is a veil. And in the previous verse, it says, whether you warn them or not, it doesn't matter for them. And there are certain experiences, there are certain times that I feel exactly that way. Like something important happens in my life, and it's obvious that it's a warning for me. It's an opportunity to become a better person, the opportunity to become closer to my sustainer, my Rab. It is so critical what happens in my life, but it passes away. It passes away without making any change in me. I have a fight, let's say, with someone I love or someone I care. Next day, I'm the same person. I didn't get anything from that. I win lottery or something, extraordinary happens. I apply for a grant, I send a submission, the publication is accepted. Or, my mother calls me and tells me that she loves me out of sudden. And next day or next moment, I'm the same person. Nothing happened. A clear warning comes, but as if I have a veil on my heart, my eyes, my hearing. I don't get any lesson out of this experience. I don't extract any message out of this experience. I have a bad habit and many experiences I go through, all kind of warnings, and I realize them as a warning after everything, finishes or happens. It's just a memory. I say, how come I didn't see it? So life is full of warnings, right? This is how Creator describes my life in the Quran, or the message. We send it as a warner, Nazira, in many places. So my life is full of warnings, but I don't see them. I just see them as, ordinary facts, ordinary parts of my life. I had a fight because there was a problem. My mother called me and told me she loves me because she was lonely and whatever. Nothing in my life is a warning for me. I don't take them as a warning. And verse here says that this is so because you are, I'm sorry to say that, we usually don't take it such words as speaking to us, but Quran tells me, because you don't see any message in your life, you don't see any warning in your life because you are kafir, because you are covering up, because you are not honest to yourself, because you don't think that you need guidance, you don't think that you need, I don't want to say improvement, but there are many deficits in you that needs to be fixed. You don't see yourself like this. You are covering them up. Thus, you're missing all the messages that I sent you. You take them ordinary part of your life.
So then if I repeat the question, how is this verse a guidance for me along the light of what Brother Birkan was sharing? So belief and unbelief is not like I am perfectly a believer and such is a perfect unbeliever outside there, some guy out there. But it is like at moments of my life, I am being God conscious in certain moments, in certain interactions. But there are things in my life in which I am choosing to cover up who is the doer, who is the creator, who is the sustainer. And I am choosing not to get guidance from certain things. I just want to leave it as if, well, it's just part of life. It happens. And I just want to go away with it. And for such things, since I am choosing deliberately not to see things in them, the meaning, the purpose, why am I going through that? Is there a message to me from this interaction with my beloved one, with my mother, whatever? Then the Creator says, if you choose not to see it, then no matter how many people come and try to show you the meaning in it, you will keep closing your eyes, keep denying, and then it's going to as if become like a habit in you. You will, like, as if over your eyes there's going to be a veil. Next time such a thing happens, or automatic self-protection system will get activated, and you will start defending yourself, saying that no, there's nothing in here, no meaning, whatever. Yeah, please go ahead, Brother.
So just one example to make everything more fun. So you are a married person, and let's assume God prevented your wife having a tough day, comes down, start yelling, saying something. Why you are, I don't know, speaking too loud while I'm trying to put Zainab to sleep. So what would you do? You would say, she's stressful again. Yeah, she's having a tough day. Or, I don't know, she's just, exaggerating things, whatever. Everything but my Creator putting me in such an experience, so he must be telling me something about myself. A warning for myself.
But wait. Can it not be that she is having a wrong day today?
It is definitely possible. It's a warning for her. But what about the warning for you? Why you are part of this experience? So your Creator put you in such an experience, so it must be a warning for you. But what happens, whether he warns you or not, it doesn't change anything. You are same old Birkan, you are same old Yusuf.
Jazakallah khair. Let's pass this topic. It starts to become serious. Yes, Jazakallah khair. That's correct. So I can choose to cover up, and if I do so, I will not see any meaning in it. And eventually it's going to become a habit for me. Next time if it happens, I will say, okay, another day, another tough day for her, whatever. And rather than taking any guidance from that, I will just keep ignoring. So as we are already out of time, I would like to give another example. For the third category, it was too tough. So for the ones that say they believe, but actually they don't, I'm not answering to this. It's a topic that needs to be studied in depth, and I am in need of this to study it with somebody in depth a lot, so I didn't have the courage to present it to you here today. So in verse number 26, I will quickly read the verse. Quran gives an example of how something is taken as guidance and not guidance. إن الله لا يستحي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعودة فما فوقها فأما الذين آمنوا فيعلمون أنه الحق من ربهم وأما الذين كفروا فيقولون ماذا أراد الله بهذا مثلا يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا وما يضل به إلا الفاسقين. Indeed, God does not disdain to give a parable of a mosquito or of something even less than that. Now, as for those who have attained to faith, they know that it is the truth from their sustainer. Whereas those who are bent on denying the truth say, what could God mean by this parable? In this way, does he cause many a one to go astray, just as he guides many a one aright. But none does he cause thereby to go astray, say the transgressors. So I'll go back to the example that Brother Birkan gave. What could God give me a message with, like a tough day of my wife or anything? Say, well, it is just, I mean, we are talking about the creator of heavens and the earth and everything. Like, it's insignificant thing happening in our day-to-day life, which is routine. I mean, what could have God meant as a message from this? I mean, when you say it's God is giving a message to me with that, like my wife is doing it, not God doing it, man, come on. Might be an attitude from me, just to say that this cannot be action of God. It's not, God is not controlling this. God is not giving existence to what I'm going through. It is between me and my wife, or me and Birkan, or whatever. Like they, and as I keep thinking like that, there's no space, there's no place for God in my understanding of this existence. Because either it is between me and another person, or it is between me and nature, so on and so forth. There is no place for God. But when it comes to for those who are who have attained faith, they say this is whatever is happening to me must be from my Creator, and then they will act accordingly. And this applies to Scripture as well. Like within the Scripture, when Creator gives the example of a mosquito, like historically, they say that when a verse is revealed talking about a mosquito, they made fun of with a prophet, saying that, come on, your Creator couldn't find a better example, and giving example of a lowly thing as mosquito, as if since mosquito is a lowly thing, God, like the creator of heavens and earth, is not going to busy himself with such insignificant details. He would give examples from lion maybe, but not mosquito. Mosquito, come on. But if we take it as there, like in the example of a mosquito, the art, the power being manifested on a mosquito, like in order to create a mosquito, the one who creates the whole universe can be the one who creates a mosquito. So a mosquito is no insignificant than a lion, than the sun or the galaxies, first of all. Likewise, in my life experiences, I see something as insignificant and some other things as significant. So are the things that I see as insignificant really insignificant? This is the question. Because I feel like as if when my paper gets accepted, which is something extraordinary or beautiful, something worthy to mention. Is it? And then I can say, oh, definitely God made things and helped me that I get admitted to this job or whatever. How about the things that today, let's say my wife has cooked me the most beautiful food. Is this something regular? Or is this something that my wife did? Or is there, what does, as Brother Birkan was saying, what does my Creator tell me by creating me in this scene? Is there a message? Or would I say, I mean, because the question in here, what could God mean by this parable, is like a derogatory way of saying something. It couldn't be that your God is speaking this. This is the purpose of that question. Likewise, when Brother Birkan was saying, what is the message of your creator to you with this interaction between you and your wife? I would say, what would God tell about this? It's not something godly to say anything with this sort of a relationship. Come on. I mean, if it was for like an asteroid hitting the world, okay, I would accept this. But like me and my wife, come on, it's just between me and her. Brother Birkan, you raised your hand. Please go ahead.
You actually already said what I was planning to add. So the way I understand also the second part, when kafir, like deniers say what intention of this Allah may have by giving us this parable, the way I understand is God wouldn't, waste his time with such an insignificant thing, as if it can happen by itself. We don't need interference from God. As you said, if it was an asteroid, hitting the world, yes, I would say it's a big event, so we need God for that. So I should try to get a lesson out of it. He's warning me. Or an earthquake happens, and the first thing we say, oh, God is warning us. But when we walking on the street and see that the leaves are falling down in the season of fall, we don't see it as a message, as a warning from our creator. We say, it's fall. Yes, it is expected that the leaves will fall.
Yes. Jazakallah khair. So any other comments, any other questions for the topics that we covered so far? Our time is getting close, but alhamdulillah, it was a interactive discussion. So it looks like still people are fresh. Staying home is good, I guess. Fasting is being easier nowadays. So yeah, alhamdulillah, today we started from who is guided from Qur'an, because last week we said that Qur'an is a guidance for mankind, for human, but today we went through Qur'an is guidance for God conscious, meaning that if I am seeking for it, then my creator is going to talk to me. Yes, Brother Birkan.
I got just excited about what you just said, so I want to repeat it. Like we started with the Quran is guidance, but only for God conscious, and then you very beautifully took us through these verses, other verses, which talks about the warnings, the message, trying to extract meaning out of things, which very nicely connects to the very beginning, where he defines muttaqin, God conscious, as those who believe in unseen, ghaib. So muttaqin, being God conscious, is when you experience an event, when something happens in front of you, anything, even as tiny as a mosquito, you say, there must be something beyond that. There must be a warning, there must be a message that my creator giving me with this mosquito, with this fight, with these falling leaves. This is believing in ghaib. There must be something beyond what I see. And this is being God conscious. With everything, God is trying to give me a message, trying to give me a warning. If I don't do that, I become, at least partially from moment to moment, I become a kafir, denier.
And denier in this regard being intentionally, I don't want to see it. So if it is out of my heedlessness, this is something else. So I forgot that I put the wallet to my pocket. I am oblivious that it's there. So this is another thing. So if I am like ghafil, so I am not aware at some point, this is something else. But if I am intentionally trying to avoid extracting meaning from these things that are happening around me, then in this regard, I am being like a denier, a kafir. So just to wrap it up, so that if somebody is like blood pressure is increasing now, what do you mean? Am I a kafir? Am I going to hell? So not in the sense that, okay, we are going to just, you're done, you are doomed, whatever, not in this sort of a thing, but belief and unbelief is like all over my life, because my life is consisting of moments, and even at that moment, in a certain aspect, I might be convinced about my maker, but in other aspects of it, I might be intentionally avoiding my creator. So in this regard, we are talking about belief, unbelief in here. And actually, if we take it as such, these verses are going to be a guidance for me. Otherwise, if this verse is only talking about the kafir out there, unbeliever out there, so what guidance am I going to get out of that? At best, I would say, okay, the verse is saying that don't waste your time by inviting this guy to believe he is already this unbeliever. And definitely this will never happen. You don't know if this person is such a person or not. So definitely this cannot be the type of guidance we will extract from this verse anyways. Therefore, our moments of life are consisting of me as a believer, me as an unbeliever at certain aspects. So this is how those verses are being a guidance for me.
Yusuf?
Yes, Ammar.
Yeah, so I just want to make a comment about the mosquito first.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So the way I think about it, it's like God's saying that like size is essentially irrelevant, whether you think something's big or whether you think something's small. Like He has total control over it, and it's only big or small relative to you. So like who are you to say that a mosquito is small? Like there's things smaller than a mosquito, like cells, and those are very intricate and well made, and even things smaller than cells like atoms, those are very intricate and well made. And like just to give like a relevant example, like how big is the coronavirus? Like it's tiny, but it has like an outsized impact on the entire universe, on the entire world, from something that's so small. So, and Allah has control over that as well. So this is just like a sort of don't delude yourself into thinking something's insignificant because it's small relative to you. Allah has control over that thing, and He also has control over the entire universe.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Very beautiful. So any other comments before we close? Well, as brother, we can keep saying I talk a lot, I guess. This was supposed to be a 1 hour discussion. It ended up being 1.5 hours again. So inshallah, next week we are going to hear a 1 hour discussion from Brother Rikan. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.